Good morning. It is Wednesday well, I guess it's afternoon now. I am Marin Savage. I was taking a break from watching what should have been the state legislative vote to override the vetoes, but it's been going on for about an hour and there's still no vote, so I'm going to do my presentation. For my project, I decided to do an emergency evacuation plan for my office building. A couple of years ago I did a business continuity plan, and one of the things I found was in general there was not a lot of broad knowledge within my office or within the building on what we were supposed to do in an emergency situation. And this seems like the perfect opportunity because we're moving. Our current office is this left-hand building with the blue roof. It's a 2-story, pretty simple building. It houses all of administrative services. So far it has had everybody who reports up to the Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services. Finance, HR, procurement, grants and contracts was in that building for a long time. They moved up to WERB when they moved up to WERB, and they've moved under the Vice Chancellor for Research, so they're no longer us. But it's been a pretty simple building. And now we are moving, or we've been told that we're moving in September to the Lathrop Dormitory Hall. I'm sure they're going to change it from being Lathrop Hall to something else, but this is a picture of the building on the right that we're going to be moving into. It's considerably bigger, with a lot more office spaces. So our current floor plan and evacuation routes, you can see that the buildings it's just 2-floor. It's got a lot of little office spaces, but it's not a very complex building, and we have a number of emergency exits. The new building that we're moving into is significantly larger, 5 floors. There's still numerous exits, but part of the complexities here is, besides moving all of our existing departments, we're also moving other departments in as well. I believe the development office is going to be housed within the same floor as us. Finance, OMB, PAIR, procurement, and development. And then the 5th floor is open as of now. They've not decided yet who else is going to be moving in there, or if anybody is at this time. But because of this move, and while we do have these evacuation routes listed out, thought that it would be a good idea to update our existing EAP, or evacuation plan for the building. So the existing plan that we had was really bare bones. It was intended to meet our OSHA requirements, but really not developed beyond that. It is a form, a template that each department or each building is supposed to fill in their specifics. The one for administrative services was created in 2015. It was revised in 2017 to update it with a couple of the changes that had happened. There was conflicting information that I found within our EAP. It had never been practiced. I've been here 19 plus years, and we've never done an evacuation drill. We did a semi-evacuation drill when there was a large fire in the dumpsters out back 10 years ago or something, but it was definitely not a coordinated event. It was more looky-loos watching the fire departments come down and try and put it out. Let's see, we have multiple evacuation points identified outside, although only one of those is noted in our EAP plan. And when I had done our business continuity plan a couple years ago and had asked people within our office, as just part of my surveying background, what the emergency response plan was, everybody pointed to different directions for where our evacuation point or rally point was. So I figured that would be a good thing that needed to be followed up as well. I found that roll takers were not identified for some departments, so I'm not sure. There was no identification of what the plan was for that. Our EAP had, instead of having each floor have roll takers, it was each department. So everybody would work with whoever they already work with to identify who was missing or taking attendance. There were no real alternates identified, so if that person was gone or unavailable, there was nobody planning to be a backup. There was no indoor evacuation point identified, which, if you can imagine, winter time at 40 or 50 below, having somewhere that people know is the rally point that's planned ahead of time is really important, as opposed to getting evacuated and then deciding while people are already cold and going into their cars, and you lose the ability to control the crowd once everybody starts doing their own thing. And let's see, the final thing that I found within the existing EAP was that there were multiple role takers identified to report to any kind of incident command. So instead of one person being the coordinator saying, everybody tell me who's missing from your department, or who was accounted for, and we can identify who's missing, it was 8 to 10 people who would all go to incident command and say what their status was for the department, which did not seem to be very efficient. So actually, yeah, let's talk about challenges. So the challenges that I faced for this project were included it being fiscal year end and the budget issues. Those together really, I think, created my responsiveness issues. People had a hard time responding to me and getting back to me with answers when I couldn't find the information I needed. So the lack of clarity in responsibilities, I found some pages would say environmental health is responsible, environmental health and risk management, which is one department, versus the Office of Emergency Management, OEM, which is under the fire, or with the fire department. There was really no training specific for these building coordinators. Anybody who's a building coordinator currently has training with facility services, but that is in their role as the facilities person to report unsafe work conditions, or if there was a leak in the building or something like that, and working with facilities to get building problems fixed, which is really not the same as coordinating evacuations. So lack of training for those people, lack of testing of the plans. I've been here, like I said, 20 years almost, and I've never been a part of a planned drill, any kind of testing of any of these evacuations. Another one of the challenges for me in putting together this new EAP was that the building still has students in it, so I've not been in it. All I've had is the floor plans, which generally I think I did well enough with just what I had. The office assignments are still in negotiation. I think that we're pretty set on which departments are moving in and what floors they should be on, but who will be where is not finalized. So when I assigned role takers by floor and alternates for those, it is provisional and will need to be revised and looked at once those offices are decided, as well as who's on the last floor. Then we'll add that part to the plan as well. So I'm gonna run you through my plan real quick that I put together. We had, like I said, an existing plan, but it was very basic, and that it was sufficient, it's just not very detailed. So when I looked through it, there were sections that said, like, for training and testing, everybody should come up with a plan and practice it. And that's, to me, not enough to say that we've done it. That's not a procedure, that's a suggestion. You need to have it. So I put together, based on a couple different other outside institutions that had evacuation plans, I put together this fire safety and evacuation plan to use as a supplement to the current EAP that I've also updated, and it's pending with the fire marshal, to kind of supplement and fill in our plan with a little bit more information. So here it is, the Austin Lathrop Hall. I've named our evacuation coordinator, and the departments listed. You can see within the contents, got a whole lot of different information within here. We've got the general information is really kind of our purpose statement. We can do revisions as well. So we got like our purpose statement, what we're doing, why, how we are complying. There we go. And what regulations we are in compliance with this plan. Responsibilities and duties of employees and students, and then also the evacuation coordinator and these role takers, which is a new term that's not really campus adopted, but that's what I decided to call these people. And anything that's I highlighted in blue here are recommendations that this plan is not like set to be enacted. There's recommendations within my plan that need to be put in place for this to be really a good plan, which include training. Currently, like I said, the training is really not there for anybody who's going to be an evacuation coordinator or a role taker to know what their duties are. So here we got the training for these OEMs. Fire extinguisher training is also not required, but I also didn't see that we had any within the university, so I found an OSHA one. Another part was analyzing the drills afterwards, coming up with an evacuation drill form, which I've got right here, so you could kind of see the stuff that we were looking at. And it's really just to get feedback on how it went so that we know either what education or practice we need to do to make things go better in the future, so that if we ever do have an emergency event, we're really set up to do the best we can to have the least amount of possible damage. Okay, so we got emergency evacuations, evacuation drills, role taker duties, emergency evacuation. Okay. So, evacuation procedures, here's another recommendation that I added in here, is adding door placards that can be taken from the interior side of the door for each of these offices, because everybody's pretty well going to have their own office or two people in one office, but it's a lot of rooms. So having placards that people can take from the inside of the door and throw it on the front when they are exiting and mark it as cleared for evacuation, I believe is going to make the ability for the firefighters who respond to be a lot more effective if they know which rooms very quickly have been cleared and they don't need to go back in. So evacuation route maps, I took all of the maps so that they're here in the plan. You can see by floor. This one is the first floor, and here you can see all the different rooms. There's going to be some of these rooms are going to have special purpose since it was a dorm. This large room here is going to be a meeting room, an informal gathering area. Anyways, the purpose is going to be a little bit different, but the room setup is going to stay the same, so the evacuation maps can remain. Get through all of those. So the emergency procedures. There are multiple emergency procedures, but the big ones for evacuation were the fire and explosion. So I did put all the detail in here, and this is a mixture of the UAF what to do's and some general recommendations of safety recommendations, pretty much just as if trapped and clothes on fire. And then it talks about the alarms within each building and what to do. Then I included all the other emergency procedures as well that were found on the OEM site after violent incidents or active shooter or bomb threats. Anyways, just pulled in those procedures so that we can hand this form out to this template, this plan to everybody within our building, and they all have the information necessary.